Sorry about that. I'll have to say that again. I did not have my microphone on. I will reconvene our meeting today, our regular council meeting for Tuesday, January 20th. And we don't have any bylaws from a public hearing at all, so we will go straight into our delegations. And today we have Wayne and Jim from the RDOS presenting their 2026-2030 financial plan. So if you'd like to come up to the podium there and just turn the mic on. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. So I'll try and be very quick. Once. All right, we'll start off with the RDOS's commitment to our clients. The RDOS is dedicated to providing the highest level of service to our clients. The RDOS is committed to maintaining our quality of service at an affordable cost. The RDOS understands the importance of financial stability for our clients, and we pledge to keep our service costs affordable, ensuring that any increase will not materially affect the client's budget from year to year. The RDOS strives to foster long-term relationships built on trust, transparency, and mutual respect. So let's talk a little bit about what regional districts are. They're corporations formed by the Lieutenant Governor in council by letters patent. The letters patent outline the geographical area, which includes municipalities and electoral areas. The power of the regional districts is vested through the board of directors. The RDOS has 9 electoral areas and 6 municipalities. The board has 20 members, 11 who are appointed by their municipalities, and 9 who are elected representatives from each electoral area. Regional districts are not taxing authorities. Taxes are collected through the province. The province taxes citizens in the electoral areas. Regional districts do not tax municipalities. Municipalities tax citizens in their boundaries on behalf of the regional district. The regional district manages and supplies services to the clients. Some services are legislated, like general government and telecommunications. Other services are by choice and only through public assent, only created through public assent process, like recreation. There's regional service where the majority of electoral areas and municipalities participate and all properties would contribute. These are for general government, emergency management, regional trails. Then there's rural services, where all properties in an electoral area contribute, but the municipalities do not. Examples are electoral area administration, electoral planning, building inspection, and bylaw enforcement. Then there's shared services, where only those participants in the service contribute. Some are fire departments and parks and recreation. And there's local services where only a defined group of properties within an electoral area contribute, and that would be like a wastewater or water system. The differences between regional district and municipalities. Municipalities have 3 to 5 budgets, usually general, sewer, and water, where regional districts must have a budget for every service so that the service is self-sustaining. The separate budgets ensure that only those participating contribute. The regional district currently this year has 162 operating budgets and 62 capital budgets. The budget process, it starts in June, where the managers will set a baseline budget for the service. Then it comes to committee workshop in November with requests for regional grant and aid, program change requests, and staffing requests. The board approves the request from the budget committee workshop, which goes into first reading, which was passed on January 8th. After first reading, we come forward as public engagement from January and February for feedback to allow the directors to change the budget all the way up into third reading. Legislation requires the budget to be adopted before March 31st. This here is a comparison from first reading to adoption from last year. The operational expenses are $57 million, municipal debt repayment of $8 million, capital projects of $49 million, with a total RDOS budget of $115 million. Of the 57 million in operational expenses, 1.3 million is attributed to the new services in the Okanagan Falls area, which are the Vintage Views sewer system, the Lakeshore water system, and the Skaha Estates water system. Only the residents that use those services have to pay for those services. The other new service this year was Transit Similkameen Route 50, which is a bus transit service from Princeton to Penticton. Only the village of Princeton, village of Karamias, Area H, which is rural Princeton, Area G, which is Headley and rural Karamias, and Area B, which is rural Costin, pay into that service. Of the 49 million in capital projects, there's 34.7 million of carry forward projects, with 20 million of that being an organics processing facility. Of the 57 million of operational expenses, 29.5 million is the tax requisition, which is an increase of 1.1 million, which works out to a 4.88% increase after non-market growth. The transfers to reserve are in the amount of 4.3 million, which works out to 7.5% of the operational expenses. This slide shows which each municipality and electoral area pays for that 29%. And if we look, Summerland is there at 1.25. If we go across, it's a 6.11% after non-market growth. And at the bottom right, you can see the 4.88%. These market growth numbers are from 2025. The 2026 numbers came in after this was prepared, so they will be changed for second reading. What non-market growth is an increase in tax base or assessed value from new construction and improvements. So what this does is spreads the increase to new contributors, helping lower the burden on existing taxpayers. A simplified example here is if a service needs $100,000 tax requisition to operate in 2025, and the service had 100 homes at $1 million a piece, that would mean 100 million assessed value. That works out to $1,000 per home for the year. That same service increases 5% in 2026, making it cost $105,000. But there was 20 more homes added in that service area. So the service area is now $120 million, meaning that each homeowner pays $875 a year. So in this example, even though a service goes up by 5%, the homeowners could pay less money. This slide here is showing graphically how the 29 million is divided by electoral area and municipality. And I want to say Summerland is fourth from the bottom. This one here is if that money was split out per capita. And Summerland, I believe, is fourth from the bottom still. Support costs. You'll see lines in the budget that are called support costs. What that is the operating expenses to keep the 6 support departments functioning, which are human resources, legislative services, communications, finance, corporate facilities, and information services. Some of those expenses are like utilities, maintenance of the head office, the yearly financial audit, public engagement, safety audits, and some software licensing. All support department costs are exclusive of wages except for corporate facilities, as it does have some maintenance worker wages in that budget. The board policy distributes 88% of the operational plan and 12% of the capital plan. No support costs are charged to debt servicing, carry forwards, or transfers to reserve. This graphically shows how the support departments monies went from last year to this year being blue, this year being orange. You can see there's a separate new communications department that came from legislative services. And the other one is information services had a very large increase. That increase is based on software licensing as the software industry changed from an ownership model to a subscription fee model. So instead of buying a software once, you're actually having to buy it every year for every computer or license that you have. Now we'll just quickly go through what was brought to the board as requests for regional grant and aid. There were 8 requests. 4 of them have tentatively been accepted. The first request from Okanagan Conservation Alliance was declined due to ineligibility, as the organization had received funding in 2 of the last 4 years. They can apply again in 2027. The Similkameen Country Development Association self-removed the application prior to the workshop. There were 8 total full-time equivalency asks. Number 1, a senior energy specialist is grant funded and does not affect taxation. Number 2, the cybersecurity network analyst was given early approval, which means it cannot be removed from the budget. All the lines in green were granted early approval by the board. Number 5, the scale attendant is user fee paid, therefore it doesn't affect taxation. Number 6, the cemeteries and parks clerk is a 6-month position. Number 7, the electoral area coordinator is a 1-year position and only paid by electoral areas. The fire services manager was given early approval as well. The $210,000 fee includes the purchase of a vehicle. Then there were program change requests. These were brought forward to the board as some of these expenses increased the service more than the 4% mandate. PCR 5 and 6 were declined by the directors, and PCR 7 was a modified contribution level for 2026. The VRR stands for Vehicle Replacement Reserve. PCRs 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 17 were deemed operationally required, and they were already included in the workshop budget, but were brought forward to the board so they knew which expenses they were. PCR 16 was removed by the CAO before the workshop, and PCR 18 was declined by the directors as the society had found alternate funding for that project. PCR 22 was rejected by the director. PCR 30 had a director change the scope, so it was no longer neutral. All revenue from court bookings is being put into reserve. PCR 31 was declined by the director. PCR 32, the director modified the contribution level. PCR 33 is a net neutral, so there is no taxation increase. And PCR 37 was removed before the workshop as the BC tree fruits artifacts are now in Kelowna. Now we'll go into the new capital project requests for budgets that affect everybody. So this is the corporate facilities office upgrade. The RDOS bought an office on Skaha Lake Road that needs renovation. Once it's renovated, the 3 staff and facilities in Penticton will move under one roof, and the old building will be sold to offset the cost of the new building. 911 emergency call systems, all those ones in yellow are carry forward projects from last year. Same with the emergency planning equipment, and the information services amounts are mainly due to the new building. As you know, we all bought curbside carts this year, so we have to build a curbside storage for the extra carts that we bought using economies of scale. And then there's a project in regional trails for Similkameen Trail upgrades that requires borrowing. In order for that to proceed, public assent is needed. Which brings us to the end where this is Summerland's tax requisition breakdown. So the overall tax requisition for Summerland is $1.25 million, an average increase of $97,000. The tax increase is 8.4%. However, after non-market growth, the tax increase is 6.11%. Sorry, I talked so fast, but we're done.
No, that was great. Thank you very much. Councillor Betts, I think you had a question.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Quick question about your grant and aid requests, actually. I just wasn't sure, did I see, we had one grant and aid request come through from the Agar Lake Camp Society, or I don't know if that's how they list it, but we had been recommending to the organization to maybe come to approach the RDOS as well for grant and aid, just because it's just such a great organization who offers support to actually many members of the community, not just in Summerland, but in regions surrounding us. And so hopefully next year we'll see Agri Lake Camp on there too, just as a little side note. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I just have to get back up. I wondered what the role of, it was something to do with fire services.
Regional Chief?
No, I think
Yeah.
it's a manager.
Emmett.
Can you tell me what that role is, Wade?
Nope, the CAO would like to answer that.
Thank you, Jim.
So yes, it is a new role. The majority of the time charged will be to our 8 fire departments. And there's a portion charged to 911. So you saw that there's a whole whack of carry forwards. Those are antennas that go throughout the valley so the fire departments can use them for 911. And also a small portion is going towards the emergency services. But the majority is for the 8 fire departments. So I'm trying to amalgamate them so that right now, each of the fire departments, there still would be fire chiefs, but the manager will be responsible for those 8 chiefs.
Thank you very kindly.
Councillor Patton.
Jim, in regards to what I see that there's $190,000 for 911 emergency call systems. You know, isn't 911 or 911 out of Kelowna from their dispatch?
The dispatch is, yes, out of Kelowna, but each area is responsible for the equipment. And that's what we are, those items marked in yellow that show carry forwards, that's all future upgrades to the antennas. And this person is right now would be supplementing the help of the person that we have right now. We're not redundant and we need more work or help for that.
Go ahead.
Quick question to follow up on the fire services manager position. Do you anticipate some cost savings in your administration of the 8 fire departments by hiring this person?
I anticipate increased efficiency and also that there's going to be some savings. I can't say how much because I anticipate the 8 fire departments will then have the same equipment. Right now, each fire chief chooses the equipment that they prefer. So we may have 8 fire departments, but we may have 4 different companies of different purchases, everything from the breathing apparatuses to the saving other equipment. So I'm looking at efficiencies more than savings.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Good. Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation. And on behalf of the district and council, thank you so much for coming to our budget open house. We really appreciated that. It was the first time that we invited other organizations, and we think it went really well. So thank you for coming to that. Yeah.
And thank you for inviting us. I'd like to be invited again.
Yes, you will be.
I had counted at least 40 questions. And in the road shows, we have 17 road shows throughout to the South Okanagan and the Similkameen. And we've had anywhere from 2 people to 21. And here I go, we come to Summerland and I got 40. So thank you.
Well, we'll see you again next year. Thanks, Wayne, as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on to development reports and business items. So 18.1 OCP and zoning bylaw amendment application for 17013 Sanborn Street.
Thank you. My name is Julie McGuire. I am the Director of Planning and Development with the District of Summerland, and I'm here to present on this application. I would like to introduce, in the audience is Brad Alenko, the applicant is here as well. So just to start out, this is a concurrent application to seek an amendment to the official community plan to include 17013 Sanborn Street into the urban growth boundary. It's also to amend the OCP to redesignate from rural residential to medium density residential and open lands. It's also to rezone from country residential to residential medium density, preservation and protection, and country residential with site-specific provisions. So the subject site has been within the approved Hunters Hill neighborhood plan since 2016. So it's known, has been known to be developed. And this proposal would allow for a variety of medium density housing options. So I'll just go through all slides. So the subject site is shown on the map in pink, and it's located southwest of downtown, adjacent to the south of the Hunters Hill development. It's about 13.43 acres and has a single residential home with vehicle access off of Sanborn. The applicant is proposing to include this site within the OCP's urban growth boundary, and since additional density, this is because additional density outside the urban growth boundary is discouraged. The primary objective of the urban growth boundary is to redirect residential growth to central areas, either with existing infrastructure or places where there's planned infrastructure for the future. And currently, there is existing infrastructure in the area with water and sewer located along Sanborn Street. So the district is currently updating their official community plan, and as part of this update, the draft OCP is proposing to include this site and the adjacent Hunters Hill lands into the urban growth boundary. In preliminary OCP engagement with council, there was support for these inclusions into the urban growth boundary. There is a portion of the property that is within the agricultural land reserve, and that area is about 0.21 hectares, and it's in the southeast corner of the property. The ALC requires that the lands in the ALR maintain agricultural uses, and therefore they must maintain a zone that allows these uses. So the recommendations from the ALC are to use landscape buffers between the urban development and ALR lands, but this recommendation would put significant restrictions for development on this portion of the land. And I just wanted to show a picture of what it might look like in case you haven't been out there.
What it might look like?
Or what it looks like.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you for clarifying for me.
That's all right. What it might look like. No?
The subject site is included in the Hunters Hill neighborhood plan. It was included in 2016, and it has policy to direct the future development. Although this plan is out of date with what is currently being developed on Hunters Hill, the proposal aligns with existing policies for natural environment and protection and trail integration. So first I'll show go through the OCP, what's existing and what's proposed. This slide shows the current OCP designation of rural residential with what is surrounding this property. The proposed development is for a redesignation from rural residential to medium density residential and open lands. The medium density residential supports higher density development with a range of housing types such as low-rise apartments, cluster development, and townhomes with a maximum building height of up to 4 stories. The open lands designation allows forestry grazing, recreation, and conservation management. So now I'll go to the zoning bylaw amendment. This is the current zone, which is country residential, and it allows up to, I think it's 1 acre? Sorry. Yeah, anyways, country residential, and these are the surrounding uses. And the proposal is to go from country residential to residential medium density, preservation and protection, and country residential with site-specific provisions to reduce the parcel size from 1 hectare to 0.21 hectares. So the residential medium density supports higher density residential development and a mix of housing types such as apartments, cluster development, multi-use townhouse at 15 meters or 4 stories. The preservation and protection designation is really driven by slope and environmental constraints. The terrain is very steep and it has ecological values of ESA 2. And these are to remain undeveloped and not meant to be park. The CR1 site-specific zone allows the agricultural uses and aligns with the ALC regulations. These lands will stay in the ALR. So servicing, an engineering report was submitted with a review of water needs for the property. If fully built out at approximately 150 units, water upgrades would be required for the water reservoir, water pump, water main, and for the upper portion of the property. The lower portion of the property along Sandmore would, in theory, have access to sewer and water, and few, if any, upgrades would be needed on the preliminary engineering review. So water modeling and sewer modeling have been completed for this property. And the district is recommending that there is an amendment to a map in Schedule A of the subdivision development servicing bylaw to include this property within the sewer specified area. And this aligns with the site-specific amendment for the CR1 area. So in conclusion, the proposed inclusion of this parcel into the urban growth boundary aligns with the new draft OCP. The OCP designations reflect environmental protection, and the medium density residential is proposed to provide greater housing diversity and flexibility consistent with Summerland's housing needs report. So the recommendation, do I read the recommendation or this is the recommendation?
Oh, yeah, I think we can see it on there. That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Council, do you have any questions about this application? Go ahead.
Yeah, the ALR has a policy for parcels under 2 acres. Or I don't know if automatic is the right word, but without issue, they can be removed from the agricultural land reserve. This 0.21 hectare, which is what's that, like half an acre or something, artifact in the corner, although it's not a separate parcel, wouldn't it be easily removed from the agricultural land reserve? It seems to be like I say, like an artifact that's kind of in the way.
Through the chair, I don't know if there's anything easily moved from the ALR, but an application could be submitted by the applicant and considered. We would make the application.
Yeah, it's got to go.
Yes.
And so there's a process, and it's changed over the years. So the process is that the applicant would apply to us to see whether we would make a recommendation to the land commission that it should come up.
Through the chair, that's correct. They would make an application to us. We would bring the proposal to council to give direction to either go ahead or not.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Julie, as you know, next meeting, we're going to be discussing the RMD zone. And we're going to be talking about the inclusion of carriage houses upon those zones, on that zone. I guess my question is as we move forward, even though this is going into the first readings, this should not be affected, this RMD, by future decisions that could be made in regards to those carriage houses. Am I correct? If we do in future, if we allow carriage houses our RMD, that will be in the zone, and because this is going into the first readings, these won't be excluded.
Through the chair, just to clarify, at a future meeting, there would be a consideration for a site-specific for a very specific property, but medium-density residential would not have that carriage house as a use by itself. It could be considered as part of cluster housing, but it's not currently set up that way in the OCP or in the future OCP or zoning bylaw.
Okay, if I may. Thanks. I thought that we were gonna talk about that site-specific, but on the other hand, too, we were gonna discuss around the table about maybe adding that carriage house to the RMD zone. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe we weren't gonna go down that road.
Through the chair, the site-specific zone is so that we don't go down the road.
I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So one thing I noticed in this application at this time, it's noted that there's 150 units proposed on the upper and 20 units proposed on the lower for a total of 170 units altogether. Where I found earlier in the presentation, it was kind of presented as 150 units, and maybe that was just on the one of the parcels. So just knowing that we're looking at, 170 units, one of the things I noticed here was a lot of talk about water system upgrades up top. And so this proposed expansion to the water reservoir, is that what is up in the Hunters Hill area in terms of the water reservoir? Do they have the capacity to develop that out so as to support this much additional housing?
For money.
I can take that one through the chair. That's kind of the intent of what you had just described. They've done water modeling studies to show that if a fire flow for a certain type of building, they've provided concepts of what they're trying to do. Obviously, nothing's set in stone until they get a building permit. So it does depend on what type of structure they're building, what it's made of, a whole bunch of different things. And the fire flow generally governs what upgrades need to be done, including the reservoir upgrade. There would be a room there in the Hunters Hill area. That's the reservoir that would need to be expanded. To do so, it would just be building another structure and tying it in to the existing reservoir.
May I follow up? Okay, thank you for that. I'm just going to try and understand that even just a little bit better. And so just looking at, the presentation is looking at up to 4-story apartment buildings in that area. Are these different suggested water upgrades achievable?
Through the chair. Yeah, in engineering, I'm a firm believer of anything's possible for the right amount of money. If that's the developer's prerogative and it works for their performa, I think it would be achievable. It is really just a financial study on their part to determine that.
Gotcha. And just kind of as a final point, like when I'm looking at the PowerPoint, looking at servicing, it says the water engineering report with a review for the property fully built out at approximately 150 units. I just want to be sure that that report is working from the same assumptions that it would be maybe 150 higher density, but also there was 20 more units proposed on the lower. So I just want to be sure that all of those proposals are being included in what the water engineering report is proposing.
Through the chair. Yeah, so basically at this point for zoning, we do, it's really a general study of the water system using approximate numbers and estimates. So when it comes time for development permits or building permits or whatever it is that comes next, that's when we have more definitive answers. We have a solid unit count. We have even down to what the buildings are made of. And that's really what will be the fine tooth comb. They need to supply all that stuff again once they're at a point down the road.
Thank you. Wasn't it in the presentation that the lower area was going to be serviced off Sanborn, the lower water and sewer? So it's different than the top. Thank you.
Okay, council, any further questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair, this question is to Julie. Is there just a quick question about why the applicant went for the residential medium density as compared to the lower density? Just knowing that it's sloped, and I know there's some more even spots up top on the property, but do you know, can you speak to that? Why that's on the proposal?
Not right now. He will be able to at the public hearing, if it goes to a public hearing.
So the medium density designation gives that maximum amount of flexibility and will give more options, more housing typology options. So you can do row houses, apartment buildings. You could do even some strata units with a range of even duplexes and that type of stuff. So it really is providing that more flexible option. The lower density would be up to 4 units. It wouldn't be in a development permit area. The medium density residential would be, you'd be required to do a development permit for any development in there, whereas you wouldn't have to in low density if it were designated low density. Does that help?
Thanks, you guys. This is the first time I've been involved in looking at such a big project, so you've all got different experience around the table than me. When we're looking then potentially, if this is approved down the road, looking at just how it fits into the larger community. And I know there's talk about, for example, there's no sidewalks between that area and downtown or bike lanes or anything. Do we look at, does that come to council as part of the project approval or a little bit later on as a condition to these projects? Can you just speak to where that fits in, parkland and connection to downtown?
So requirements on the property happen at a different stage, but the province has tools like the development cost charge bylaw, where if you want any type of multi-use pathway to downtown, that's a project that would be put in that type of a document. It would be put in a plan, like a transportation master plan. It would be planned for, you would assign development cost charges for it. So that's a different tool than when you have a development like this. So when the future person comes in with a concept and, you know, there are road standards and they subdivide or that type of thing, that's when the internal infrastructure gets decided, but something outside of the property is in a plan and covered by development cost charges.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the staff recommendation as presented.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Patton. Kendra, are you bringing that back up on the screen just so we can have one more look at it? So all points of the recommendation? Okay. So that would give first reading to the OCP amendment and to the zoning bylaw, and that would take us to a public hearing on February 10th, 2026, where the public could provide their feedback. Okay, any further questions at all? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Great, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 18.2. This is 7311 Hilborn Street, non-compliance with district building bylaws.
Okay, Update for 7311 Hilborn Street. It's agreed that the following steps will be needed to be completed to bring the property into compliance. They have applied for a demolition permit for the southeast large agricultural building. And they should demolish that building, and hopefully we can close the demolition permit. They have to apply for a new building permit for the existing unpermitted building that was expired. There are letters of assurance from a registered professional. They have to finalize the permit for the West Agricultural Building, building permit 11120, and the first floor of the cold storage building, and this will require resubmitted schedule CACBs from registered professionals on record, as well as...
How did we end this?
Pardon me? Oh, oh, okay. And as well as completing the stairs that need to be done. They have to finalize the permit for the second floor that was expired in 2005. Once all permits are satisfied and closed, the district can remove the do not occupy notices and issue occupancy for the building. Property owners can then request the Section 58 of the British Columbia Community Charter to remove the Section 57 notice on title. The property owners can pay the fee per the fees and charges bylaw, and the Section 57 can be removed by staff. District staff has direction from the March 25th, 2025 regular council meeting to proceed with enforcement measures on the property if it continues to remain in contravention of district bylaws. Staff will provide written notice to the owner that the property must be brought into compliance by April 1st, 2026. If this condition is not met, the district will take action at the defaulter's expense to disconnect water and electrical services to the subject property as per the remedial action order resolved by council on the March 25th, 2025 regular council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that update. Council, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Betts, and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a quick question. When you said services will be turned off to the property, is it to all buildings on the property or to specific buildings on the property?
All the buildings on the property that are not in compliance.
That are not in compliance.
Yeah, water will remain on and power will remain on to the residential unit. It's the other units that aren't in compliance, and those are the ones we'll shut down.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Peak? Okay, we do see this property come to us frequently, so hoping for a good resolution at some point for everybody involved. Does anybody have any further comments or questions? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has come to us on many occasions, and I think for those of us sitting around the table that have dealt with this now for a couple of years, we have really gone way beyond what we should have to try to have them come into conformance. We've given them a lot of chances to come into conformance, and I'm afraid that if they don't this time, I'm afraid that the action is going to have to be a little more severe than what we have done in the past. And unfortunately, if this doesn't work, I think then we'll be going to court, which is the next step in this process. So I think that we've done well by them, but they have not done well by us. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, any further comments? Okay, thank you for the update. We really appreciate it, and hoping for a positive outcome for everyone. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Great, that's carried unanimously. Thank you for the update. Okay, moving on. We are on 18.3, 2025 year in review, planning and development record.
Thank you. The report, there's no presentation, but the report is really broken out into three sections. The first one is about planning. It's been a busy year with a lot of changes in the planning department. One of the big projects is the official community plan, which is coming your way very soon, I hope. And we have seen a decrease in planning applications, but we've also seen an increase in other work, like pre-applications that we don't get paid for. But it's been it's a busy spot for sure. So the next part of the report is about the building department. Applications are up, and so is total construction value, which is a really good thing. And the building officials, although they're new, they're fantastic. They're organizing down there, and they're doing a really great job. So the last part of the report is bylaw services, which will no longer be a part of this report going forward because they've moved over to corporate services. But they saw substantial increases in enforcement files in 2025. So we can take questions.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you. I see in 2021, there's 94 different types of development applications, and in 2025, we've only got 40. So that's a change, but I guess it's just kind of interesting that the trend has been kind of down for the totals. But I was wondering, somewhere in one of those years, the development variance permits process changed, and staff were authorized to deal with minor things, a corner that sticks out. So does this total on development variance permits include the ones that staff handled, or just the ones that come to council?
Through the chair, it does include the ones that staff handles. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Julie, for the presentation on the development services report. So I just actually did have a question about the pre-applications. Now, I know what you brought up about how much time they are taking is actually a different question than what I was going to get at. And what I'm wondering is when you're doing the pre-applications, I'm going to ask a question specifically about the tennis dome and where that's at right now. Because, well, I had a member of the community, of the tennis community, come to me and ask, well, we had done all this work and had these conversations, but now we've submitted more formal documents that are being reviewed. Can you speak to what the difference is between kind of just these more informal conversations guiding a proposal versus a pre-application?
Sure, through the chair. A pre-application really, they submit information, but not to the extent that they would have to submit for a true application, and they'd have to pay. They have an application with lists that they have to provide specific things. So what was provided, let's say by the Dome, they did provide some pretty good information, and we are giving them feedback based on that. So I think it's more, they didn't have to pay anything to get that feedback. So we are working through some of the issues with them.
Yeah,
for sure. So, yeah.
So are they in a pre-application stage, or did they finally submit a proper application, and that's where development services is at with it now?
They're in pre-application. I think project feasibility is still a discussion.
Gotcha. So perhaps the conversations that were had before were just not as formal as submitting like the documents towards a pre-application. I think it's interesting for any of these proposed projects that are in pre-application, is that a proponent does need to invest quite a lot of money to even get it to that stage. And I think that maybe there's a little bit of uncertainty for proponents in that they just have to invest in drawings and architecture and all sorts of different different expenses before they can even bring it forward into a pre-application and what that might mean or not mean. So I was just trying to get a better understanding of where that was versus, I mean, just to understand the process.
Just for clarification, they wouldn't have had to probably submit to the extent, it could have been more of a, these are the rules and this is what you can do. So it varies, what pre-application, some people come in with a napkin and say, what can I do? Versus, some people go further down the garden path. But it gets us closer to providing better information. The more information they provide, the better information we can give them.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the whole pre-application process, potentially from where I sit, sounds like a good idea in that, it saves everybody time on it, say they're going down the wrong path, saves them money, saves you time and effort, as long as they're not using you for too much to tell them what to do. There's certain responsibilities for them to look up what they need to do. But anyhow, and even if a project and you do invest some time and it doesn't go anywhere, that land will eventually be developed, and that's just not the project. It's part of the process. But this morning, there was a brief mention about a pickleball potential structure out at the rodeo grounds, and there was an issue, and seeing it on this list here, pre-application things reminded me of that, an issue about water, and I was wondering, well, why does a pickleball court need water? Was it just because they really wanted drinking water, or that puzzled me?
Well, through the chair, I guess a pickleball court, you need washrooms and that type of, you need some, if it's indoor, I don't know about outdoor.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that application come across yet.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, some discussion about potential sites, but, it seemed like a good site, but they mentioned something about water. Do we have washrooms up at the rodeo grounds? I can't remember. Yeah. So anyway, it's up to them to pursue whatever location they think is best and bring it to us.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now that we're talking about future projects, the RCMP site, I noticed here, 92 stories, or 92 units, 92 stories, 92 units, 6-story building. Made my heart stop. It's zoned for that type of building. And so I guess my question is, it says here that it's going, the application is moving through the referral process and outcome letters and whatnot. Does this go straight through if there's no variances? Would this go straight through to building permit? Since if it meets all the guidelines of the zone, 6 stories meets within, the density, the massing, everything is within where they're not requiring any variances whatsoever. This project would actually just go straight to building permit. We wouldn't even see it, would we, through a development permit?
Through the chair, is my understanding that the process for these multifamily, they do come to council, the development permit. I could be wrong, but that was what I was told.
I thought that if the building met the zone, that kind of bypasses the, and everything with, if there was no variances, but it'll be great to see. It's 6 stories, 92 units would be a nice building to look at. Thank you.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly. I was wondering, Julie, if there was any further information regarding Julia Street apartment building. Is there any further information on that?
Through the chair, we just talked to the applicant. At this time, they really don't want to move forward with the hotel portion, although they say they still want to at some point. The apartment building, their development permit is expired, so we're working with them to see what we can do. They might want to change their application a little bit. So the thing is, when they went through the development permit process, they included the hotel site in some of their the requirements for their development permit. So now if they're separating the two, it changes it. So if they want to change instead of 2 levels of parking, they want to maybe do 1. And so they're thinking of their options. So we're working with them to see what we can do. Either they bring back an application or we extend their permit or something, but they are looking at the market and they're worried. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I know Councillor Patton and I look a lot alike.
2 legs, 2 arms, 2 eyes, you're all the same.
Sorry. Anyway, actually, this question, I'm not sure if it's for Julia or for actually maybe CAO, but for the last couple of years, we've been receiving monthly development services reports, but that was when we were going through like the changes in the short-term rental, how we had to kind of monitor it. We had brought in the alcohol pilot on the beach, or alcohol on the beach pilot program, and even we were looking at some of the dog stuff with having the dog park, the new dog park pilot, but all of those projects have kind of wrapped up and moved along. And I'm just wondering if we still need to be receiving monthly as compared to quarterly, the development services report, or if it could just be tweaked. What do you think?
Through the chair. That's a good question. It's also a question that our new Director of Development Services asked me. And my suggestion was, with I think it's 11, maybe 12 meetings left to an election, we'll just keep the process, but test with the new council if they want to change the frequency. Unless you feel it's redundant, I'm sure staff would love to do less of them, but yeah, not a whole lot of meetings left between now and an election.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Thanks for the chair. I just found like I think it's been probably almost 6 months of meetings where it wasn't as relevant any longer. For a long time, we were pulling it out every single meeting and pulling it out of the consent agenda to then put it on the regular standing agenda. But now we aren't asking as many questions. So I don't know. The situation has changed.
Yeah, thank you for your kind consideration. It is a fair amount of work. It's in the building, or I don't know if it's the building bylaw. It's in bylaw that we have to do these monthly. So we thought, whatever, with 11 meetings, not all of them including this, probably 4 or 5 of these reports left, we would just roll. But definitely we could pursue a bylaw change if we want to change that frequency.
I really appreciate the monthly reports. I think we've had them forever. And the public's interested too, I believe. And they want to know the trend, or, how we're doing in the community, going up or down in construction. Everything depends on construction, local employment market, what's happening in the community. It is for those that want to know what's going on. I think it's quite relevant.
Good. Okay. Let me just see here. Anything else to add, Julie? No. No? Okay. So we just need a motion to receive this for information. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, any further comments? No? Okay. Voting, all in favor, call the question. Sorry, that's out of order. It's been a long day. Thank you very much. That was a great update and summary of the year. We don't have any new business arising from our committee of the whole meetings. Do we have any notices of motion? No? Okay, council reports. Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
One thing that Mayor Holmeston mentioned from the RDOS was that the $50,000 for the school scoreboard came up again for discussion during the budget, sort of a second go around, and one representative, brought it up specifically and said, hey, that's a lot of money for one place. So we had the whole discussion all over again, and the outcome was the same, and we're still going to receive, well, 99% sure. I don't know if it'll come up a third time. $50,000, for the scoreboard at Field 96. So was a little bit. I was kind of like counting on it. I was a little nervous that it came up a second time, but it came through.
It's generous of the RDOS board. Yeah. No, it's a great addition. So thank you to the RDOS board for that. Anything else? No, I just wanted to let council know that on Saturday, I will be going to the celebration of life for Keith Dom in Peachland. Keith was a longtime city councillor and the deputy mayor of Peachland, and he passed away in, I believe, November, December. So they're having a celebration of life on Saturday. So I'm going to go and represent Summerland. I believe it's at 1 o'clock. If anybody wants to join me, they're welcome to. Keith was a really great guy. He loved Summerland, loved his community, he loved his surrounding areas, and he was always a really great person to run into at UBCM and other local government conferences. So yeah, so I will go and I will represent council, and I will give our condolences to his family and to the council there. Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
Your statement about that reminded me, Keith and I actually ran for mayor the same year. So we had a lot of bantering back and forth, but of course Keith was a very bright light, and I'm glad that we sent off the card from council. So it's wonderful that you're going to attend as well.
Good, all right then. So if we don't have any further reports, I will call for adjournment. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, all in favor?